Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, the tale of the missing Bell software. I created a unicorn, but it is just too much work. I will just buy a new one. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The tale of the missing Bell software. I work in K-12 IT for a school district in the Midwest US with about 4,000 students. Our high school was rebuilt in a phased project that lasted from 2006 to 2009. Our tale today comes to us courtesy of the Bell/intercom system in this building, which, for cost-cutting reasons, was transferred over from the original building instead of being purchased new with the reconstruction, a decision outside of my control. Cast: $me District's IT Manager. Department of 3, me, Assistant IT Manager, and a tech, responsible for the entire district, 2,000 proper computers, 2,500 Chromebooks, 500 iPads, assorted printers, network, Wi-Fi, projectors, etc. Principal High School Principal. $FOC freakin' old contractor runs a local audio-visual/integration business. Nice guy. His company has somehow come to be in the position of providing support for our intercom system. Has also done a few audio/visual projects in the building. Aging gentleman, seems to be having Parkinson's-like symptoms, usually ends up spending most of his time on site telling me how things have changed in the 30+ years he's been in the business, and telling me how we need to just replace the Bell/intercom system, which his company just happens to sell, but still he's right, it needs to be put out to pasture. I suspect he's got another year or two before he decides to hand his business over to someone else. Our principal had a hands-on relationship with the Bell system in his building, which, incidentally, is where my office and data center are located, despite my responsibility being for the entire district. He would come in and set the schedules, tweak settings, and basically sort of made it his own thing. We've had problems with the system since the day it was installed in the old building a couple of years before the reconstruction, and things didn't magically fix themselves when it was transferred to the new building. Thankfully, this was one of the few areas where I really wasn't expected to provide any support or have any involvement, so the fact that the system *KED wasn't my problem, and I was totally okay with that. The principal had a laptop that was supposed to be dedicated to the building's security cameras, but which also happened to have the software on it to connect to the Bell system to let principal do his tweaking. This laptop royally *KED at life. The security camera vendors provided it without consulting with me about its specs or anything, and it was a crummy consumer-grade El Cheapo laptop that was underpowered for its job from the day it was taken out of the box. It was originally running Windows 7, Home Edition. I mean, really, and halfway through last school year I decided to see if it could handle Windows 10 as a last-ditch effort to make it better. I maxed out its RAM, and surprisingly enough, it was actually a more responsive box with Windows 10 than it had been with Windows 7. I did a wipe-an install, but before I wiped the disk, I saw the software needed for the Bell system, and made an honest attempt to copy it over. I didn't have any experience with it though, and so I had no particularly good way of determining if my transfer had worked. I figured, if it didn't work, I would be told, and we'd reinstall from wherever it had come from in the first place, no biggie. Even though W10 was better than W7 on this box, it was still an awful end-user experience, so this year, about 7 years after it originally came on site, I decided to put it out of its misery. I got a nice new laptop prepped for the principal. Fast forward a few months, and principal wants $FOC to make another attempt at fixing some latent issues hanging around in the Bell system. This is apparently the first time he's tried to connect to the system since before I wiped his original laptop from Windows 7 up to Windows 10, and certainly the first time with his new security camera laptop. This is where our tale begins. Principal, $me, I've asked $FOC to work on the Bells, but my new security camera laptop doesn't have the software. Can you help? $me, sure, let's see what's up. Apparently forgot to retransfer the already transferred one's software over. Fortunately, I happen to have the original laptop sitting in a pile of waiting to be recycled hardware, so let's pull it out. Launches software. Darn, basically immediate crash whining about missing DLL files. Googling the names of the missing DLL files reveals that the original software was written in Visual Basic 4 and compiled as a 16-bit project. Yeah. Further research reveals that its original system requirements talk about how you can install it on Windows 3.1, Windows 95, or Windows 98. Running in that newfangled Windows NT 4 is not supported. Our Intercom/Bell system was manufactured by a large company, and their PA/Bell division had apparently been bought and sold a few times over, and the system is old enough that no one wants to acknowledge its existence or support it. There's very little mention of the system on the internet, and the software needed to manage it simply isn't available. There isn't a supported, sanctioned copy out there anywhere. The original Bell system vendor, a small local company who was heavily involved in the high school's reconstruction, apparently installed the software on dollar principal security camera laptop years ago, and they've fallen off the face of the planet in the intervening years, so we can't contact them to get a copy. I had assumed our department installed it, and as such, assumed we'd have its installer in our repository, but that ended up not being the case. This could potentially be very bad. Even though I don't support the Bell system, the fact that we no longer have a functioning copy of its management software is my fault, so I'm determined to fix it. I put on my Sherlock Holmes hat and start scouring the net. There's a forum where other sysadmins have lamented the software's disappearance, and one responder has offered to send copies out to people, but those responses are over a year old in some cases. Still, I give it a shot and put in a me too response. I figure, on the off chance that I get a response, I'll treat the copy I get from that person as a last resort. After all, installing software you get from random person on the internet isn't exactly a best practice. Other than that, I come up empty-handed. I find a handful of the old, 16-bit DLL files this software complains about missing, but I'm still not able to get the software back to a fully functioning condition. I get desperate and search my email to see if I happen to have been included on any correspondence with the original vendor years ago about this software, and lo and behold, find an email from Dollar Principal with an attachment containing an installer for the software. Woo-hoo! Except, the email is from 2009. We transitioned from a locally hosted, Dovecot-based mail system to Google Apps for Education about 4 years ago. While the email that Dollar Principal sent me made the leap from the old system to the new, the attachment did not. It's a 0-byte file. You know those scenes in the movies where the hero jumps a chasm and gets about 90% of the way across the gap and then falls? That face he makes just before gravity takes hold was the same one I made when the attachment failed to download. Fortunately, I'm a digital pack rat, and we did a physical to virtual migration of our old mail server after we decommissioned it. I fire up the old mail server VM, and check to make sure all the files it expected to be there were present. I wouldn't be able to connect using a standard mail client, since none of the DNS names were valid anymore. The VM wouldn't be getting the IPs it expected to get, and we had changed directory servers, so the mail server had no idea who anyone was anymore, but that was okay. I have enough Dovecot experience to know that it stores client mail files as plain text. The email is there somewhere, I just have to find it. I look through my current mailboxes to find one whose name was likely to be unique to my mail hierarchy, and which would have existed back in 2009. Run a quick find command to figure out the path to my mail store on the original mail server. Then grep the mailbox to find the original copy of the email that Dollar Principal sent me. Found it. Copy-paste the base 64 text containing the attachment to a new file, and decode that into my prize, a 3.8 megabytes.zip file. Bring that over to the original laptop, and it fails to install. But it installed a lot of the missing .dll files before it died. I'm able to combine those .dll files with the ones I found on the internet and am able to get the software to launch and not complain about missing any files. I had honestly expected to have to set up a VM running XP or Win 7 to get the software to work, being 16-bit VB4 code, after all, but surprisingly enough, it works fine on the original laptop. I'm sure that's because I stuck with 32-bit Windows 10 on it. I have no doubt at all that this software will never run on Dollar Principal's new 64-bit laptop, but oh well. $FOC was able to get his work done, and after hearing my tale, said that I had saved the district a lot of money by getting this software back into operation, since new intercom systems run into 5 figures pretty easily. I smile and keep to myself that I had already basically told Dollar Principal that he needs to be talking to our CFO about replacing the intercom system with something that we can actually support with modern tools. I'm sure Dollar FOC will be getting a call from him soon to discuss possibilities. Merry Christmas, old man. Oh, and about half an hour after I get the software working, I get a reply from the forum with a link to a 3.8 megabytes .zip file. I created a unicorn. Sorry for the length of this story. I am also on mobile. I have been working as a permatemp at a factory for about 4.5 years now. 4 of it, driving a forklift loading finished products for the company onto trailers. I got good enough at running the computer on it that runs a single application without breaking. It auto boots into this app, but it is essentially an AIO with a barcode scanner. Anyway, once a month. The primary system we use, to track the products en route to the other warehouses, and their location once they get there, goes down, and we are supposed to shut down all production for these few hours. We don't do that at all and run in a parallel system that is only partially connected to the main database. I was running with this backup system for about 9 months before finding a shortcut that made it possible to run both systems in separate sessions simultaneously while going in and coming out of this backup system. This shortcut wasn't documented anywhere, and was actually 2 keys when the way that was documented is 10 keys, if you manage to not break the system from sticky keys being forced to run. This saves me a couple of hours in my 12-hour shift by running dual sessions, instead of scanning into the trailer every time I switch. Once word started to spread that I found a glitch in the system, some of the full-time employees started to come to me with everything to do with these computers. I got good at the backup system to the point where they even demanded that I help another third-party company run this system. They normally run the logistics side of the company here, and they keep the whole place rolling forward on about 5 miracles a day. About 2 years into this highly specialized position with no extra pay, but the benefits of not having to deal with the worst parts of my normal job, I come across the one woman who is running on a normal backup night and somehow does something I have never seen. I am still able to fix it quickly, but it puzzles me for another month until she does it again. She managed to have a single pallet of product show as being present on both of her open trailers at the same time. It would be another 2 months before I would finally be able to test with the system and figure out how this was even possible. She scanned the pallet tag, realized it was for the wrong trailer, and backed out. This should have kicked the tag out and simply allowed for it to be scanned into the other trailer. It instead held it in limbo, likely in cache, until the next pallets were scanned and assigned a location. She is the only one I know of that could do this twice and still not remember how she did it. Probably from all the pot she smokes. I had been working with this application enough to literally rewrite the manual for running it more efficiently and actually fixing most problems. The original material was horrible to start and way outdated to still be useful. I had never seen this happen, and I was very confused. I also haven't seen it since, but I added notes on it to my instructions anyway. But it is just too much work, I will just buy a new one. Hello everybody, it has been a while since I have posted, but I have another story for you. I may also be posting another in the next few days. So, a few days ago I was contacted by a usual customer. As I have said in other posts, I am a local computer technician, and I'm pretty well known for helping people in my town. A few days ago, an elderly gentleman who I have worked with before contacted me telling me that he has several Wi-Fi devices in his home and suddenly they work for a few minutes, and then they stop working. So, I did a remote session with him, check some things out, had him down to load a Wi-Fi analyzer on his phone, and as it turned out, as I suspected, he was having some Wi-Fi interference as he lived in a small apartment complex, and there were multiple other Wi-Fi hotspots around and being broadcast, and on the same channel he was on. So, at this point I told him we needed to log into the router and change the Wi-Fi channel to a channel that was not being used. From the readout of the Wi-Fi analyzer we found that there were a few channels available. He was confused and asked me what I meant by this, and I explained to him that basically his Wi-Fi was on the same channel as a couple other Wi-Fis, and it was causing interference. I told him I will go into the router, change his channel to a less congested channel, and he should be good to go. Well, this apparently confused him a great deal, because he just said, well, that sounds like too much work to go through, and if my router is no good, I will just buy a new one. I explained to him, or tried to explain to him rather, that there was nothing wrong with his router, that it was functioning fine, but it was just on the same channel as other routers, causing a conflict with frequencies. He wanted nothing to do with what I was explaining to him. LOL, he insisted that there was no need for me to go in and change the channel, as he continued to say it was too much work. I continue to tell him that it will literally take me less than 30 seconds to make the change, and he will be good to go. He continually declined and said that he would just go down to Best Buy and buy a new router. He was insistent that this would resolve this issue, and all I could do was say okay. After this I ended the call. Well, here we are this morning. I get a call from the same guy telling me that he thinks that his internet service provider is having issues. Not even thinking back to the router incident, I asked him why he believes his internet service is having issues. He proceeds to explain that he bought a new router, hooked everything up, and he is still having the same issue. At this point I was frustrated. I explained to him that there is nothing wrong with his internet, just like there is nothing wrong with his router, the old one or the new one. I explained to him that the issue was a channel conflict that would be easily resolved if he would just let me log in and change the channel, again ensuring him that it is not a lot of hard work, and that it will take less than a minute. So he said, so you are telling me that I spent money for nothing on this new router? I replied, yes, I told you the other day that the router was not the issue. Additionally, I let him know that I have been doing this for many years, and I know what I'm talking about. So just to shorten up the story here, he agreed to let me give it a shot. He wanted to take the new router back, so hey, hook up the old one, and I went and changed the channel. Hey, what do you know, all of his devices started working at work, connected very solid. I really just don't understand, this day and age, people refuse to listen to the people that know what they are doing. It is just unreal to me.